Oh, it's lovely to be just, outside, chilling, enjoying the sun, enjoying the lovely weather.
Oh, so lovely, so pleasant.
Not a cloud in the sky, nobody else around.
Just us alone in the sunshine.
It's great. It's great. I've only, got quite a long straw for my drink, but that's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine, and my headset's only overheated a couple of times.
Well, yeah.
But I have to say, this going outside by going into VR is way more manageable than the actual outside. Greetings, strangers, queer and pleasant. I'm not Laura Kate Magnet Dale.
I'm not Jane Aerith Magnet Dale, and welcome to another episode of Queer and Pleasant Strangers. It's a podcast for two queer trans women. That's us, we're wifey types. Exactly. We have a bit of a catch-up about media we've consumed in the week and do silly little things trying to make each other amused while we're catching up on stuff.
We do. What?
How are you doing?
A bit melty.
Bit melty indeed.
Summer has happened.
It's a smidge melty all of a sudden.
The Smudge is quite melty. That's correct.
She's got a lot of fluff on her.
No. No, it's depositing everywhere.
Oh no, she's gotten rid of it. She's malted a lot of fluff. She still has a lot of fluff.
She does. I've brushed her vigorously several times, and she is still just like, flump. I'm too fuzzy for this bullshit.
So what have you been playing this week?
Well, we played some things together.
That sounds like us, playing stuff together.
We did. We played that Four Swords that we talked about last week as having been released.
Yeah, this is the Four Swords, not to be confused with Four Swords Adventures. This is the one that is a pack-in with the GBA version of A Link to the Past. Yeah. As opposed to the sort of more fleshed out GameCube GBA adapter-y one.
Yeah.
So yeah, tell us about Four Swords.
It's a semi-cooperative game of what if Link got split into four, and or up to four, I should say. And then they decided to just go on a little mission and solve a bunch of puzzles and basically try and get more rupees than anyone else that is playing, and ultimately try and defeat Vati and put it back in a thing that is protected by the Four Sword.
It's one of those compet-operative games.
Yeah.
It is you're having to work together. You cannot solve the little Zelda puzzles alone. You physically need the other person's help. Mm-hmm. But also, whoever gets the most rupees gets put on a pedestal that says that they won. And
the other one cries.
The other one lies on their back, stomping their feet and crying. And it maybe brings out some behaviours. Mayhaps.
Yeah.
I look at you.
I don't know what you mean.
Oh, there's those rupees over there. Like, you could just, throw me over there and I could grab them. No, we're not doing... Okay, cool. I guess we're not doing that.
There was another way in there. You didn't need to be thrown.
I was like, oh, you'll throw me over to those things that won't be of any value. You won't throw me to that thing that'll be of value.
I got nicer as the game went on.
Yeah, you started nice and you ended nice. You had a period in the middle where you were a very competitive little goblin for a bit in the middle. It became like, oh yeah, no. If this will in any way be nice for Laura, it's not happening. There was times where I was like, oh no, I got a curse and I'm dropping rupees, and you'd be like, they're my rupees now.
To be fair,
I was not picking up your rupees when they fell out of you with the curse. I was leaving you to pick them back up. You were stealing mine. It was fun.
And then towards the end, I was like, no, I've been quite mean. I'll be nice again. And I was just like, and you're like, I suppose you've taken all the things. And then you got there and you're like, oh, you haven't taken all the things. There's some for me.
Can you blame me for assuming that you were being a little bit of a goblin?
It was possessed by the spirit of goblin. Moblin, I suppose, would be more appropriate.
We will have... I want to be clear. This is all in jest. We had a good fun time.
Yeah, this and Land vs. Sea are about the two things we get the most competitive.
Land vs. Sea is maybe the only board game we get like this about, where it's never actually mean-spirited, but we'll play up the character of, Oh, so fuck me, I guess.
There is a
fuck
lot.
me, I don't get to win, I suppose. Like, that particular flavour of played-up response is a rarity from us, but it's fun when it occurs.
Look at us pretending to be a cis straight couple.
It's Land vs. Sea. It's very specifically. It's a game where you're like trying to close up big open-ended things, and it's like, I've got the one piece left, and I'm gonna like close up the thing, and I'll score all the points, and then like someone puts down a piece, and it opens it up, and now it's gonna be like 6 whole pieces to close it again. I'm like,
why I order?
Oh, why I order? But yeah, it was. It's not a particularly lengthy thing. It's you've got like 4 areas to go to plus the tutorial.
Mm-hmm.
It's tutorial, 3 sort of dungeon areas, and the final dungeon area.
Yeah, and there is definitely a huge difficulty spike at the end there.
Yeah, I think so. But it is a nice little, you can spend an afternoon playing a Zelda together, doing a silly little thing, and it's a nice side diversion.
With a couple of random breaks for snacks and stuff and toilet breaks, I feel like we got through it in like 2 or 3 hours.
It feels very similar, and this is like several decades apart. When Mario 3D World got released on Switch a while back, and it came bundled with Bowser's Fury, which is like 2 or 3 hours long, mechanically a bit different. It had some of its own original art assets, but it was ultimately like within maybe 3 hours you could be done with it, and it was just a fun little pack-in because they were selling you a game that had already been on sale. This has that same vibe. It's Nintendo going, one of their rare instances of we feel bad selling you a game we already sold you.
Twice.
Here's like a 3-hour little side adventure you can go on. Does this sweeten the package?
Yeah.
And it does.
Yeah.
It was nice.
It was. It was a good time.
Yeah.
And I'm glad finally got to experience that. But yeah, that was a fun time. What about you? Have you played anything else?
I played a bunch of demos for things from Summer Games Fest, because I finally found the time to try a bunch of little bite-sized bits of different games.
Do tell.
What ones can I talk about? A Ranger is an interesting one. It is a game in which you're looking at like a top-down perspective of the world, and when you move your character left or right, the world shifts with you on that row. And if you move the character up or down, it shifts the column with them.
And everything wraps around to the from top to bottom.
Yeah. So if there's like an impassable wall to your left, you could go all the way to the right off the edge of the screen, and you'd wrap back around from the left and be on the other side of the impassable barrier, for example. I really thought I was going to struggle with this game because of spatial orientation and having to think steps ahead of myself of how do I move myself to rearrange the world with me to get solutions. And I didn't have as much trouble with it as I thought. And I don't know how much of that is deliberately keeping the puzzle scope fairly small so that you're not manipulating too many things in one puzzle at a time. I don't know how much of it was just good, sensible, very gradual building up a puzzle complexity. But I got on really well with it. It's a very satisfying tactile demo, and a game I am definitely going to check out when it releases.
Yay.
What other ones did I play? I played the demo for Thank Goodness You're Here.
Thank goodness you're here.
Which is that very British 2D cartoon art style one that's got Matt Berry somewhere in the final game. You're just a little yellow fella running around causing mischief and maybe solving problems for people in Barnsworth, I think. So you're running around being very British. It sort of plays like a point-and-click adventure game in as much as like, this lad's got his arm stuck down a drain trying to reach a coin. You've got to find something to lubricate his arm to get his arm out. And to do that, maybe you've got to go to the bakery to get some butter, but the bakery's shut because the locksmith's not there yet, so you go to the pub and you find, the locksmith can't go do his work yet because he hasn't had his morning pint, so you've got to work out why the beer isn't coming up through the pipes in the pub. Like, it's that kind of
key and lock.
Yeah,
massive chain.
Yeah, big long chain of key and lock. And once you get one key and start unlocking locks, you'll start finding other keys for other locks along the way. But the humor to it is absolutely spot on. It's It's very Aardman-style British, very British humour. I did have to explain to Twitch chat what a cress sarnie was. That was some words that just did not compute for Americans. The bit of humour in the demo that I think really sums up this game's, like, it nails something I enjoy very much, was someone asked me to help them, like, mow the grass or something, and they gave me access to a lawnmower. And there's this extended sequence that lasts, I'm gonna say, like a minute and a half, where in the foreground, close to the camera, is two little animated flowers, like smiling and giggling and waving back and forth, and they've got little faces. And in the background, off in the distance, your character is moving from left to right and then right to left, mowing the grass. And you are in control of this. You go all the way to the right and back to the left. And it's so far in the distance that you're doing like 15 or 20, like, cut the grass this way, getting closer, and you know clearly what's going to happen is
the flowers are going to die.
Yeah, but it spends so long building and building and building and building and taking such a stupidly long time when these flowers are like, do-do-do, I love being alive, it's great, I am having such a great day, do-do-do-do-do. It's just lawnmower. It's very good understanding of, like, tension and release.
Yeah.
It's not afraid to really make you fucking suffer for a punchline.
Excellent.
And I appreciate that a lot. I don't want to say too much about the other stuff in the demo, but that's the one that sticks in my head and goes, I think this game's humor will be for me. And I appreciate it dearly.
Yeah.
And even then, you know where that one's going. It doesn't go quite how you would think. It doesn't completely, you get your relief, but it's a good demo. It's got me excited for that game.
Excellent.
What other demos did I play that I can talk about? I played the demo for a game called Schim. Schim. You might have seen trailers for this. It's the one where you're a little, like, shadow frog leaping between shadows.
Okay.
This has popped up in, like, some wholesome directs and things over the last couple of years.
View?
3/4 down view, the world is, like, sort of one colour with, like, pencil lines.
Yeah, I think I have seen that.
And you're sort of, like, hopping as if between puddles of water, but it's shadows. And the game looked really interesting in trailers. I've been very excited for it, very excited to try it, and having actually got my hands on the demo, I'm not sold.
No.
It's so-so. The problem... There's two problems. First of all... maybe three problems. First of all, and this is, like, minor, but I feel like there needs to be a little bit more magnetism between your shadow frog and the shadows you're hopping into.
Right.
It needs to be a little more seamless to, like, hop between them in a way that appreciates the game clearly understands what you're going for and helps it to feel fluid.
It's the sort of stuff that they talk about in the making of Celeste, of, like, you need a little bit of coyote time. The things that make a platformer feel good. But in this case, not platform.
Yeah, it feels like it should play something like a Jet Set Radio, where it's like that sort of flow of movement that just isn't quite clicking for me. Second, once you get through the little, like, the introductory bit, it becomes very aimless as to where you're going or why. You hold down a button and it'll show you what your objective location is, and it's like, oh, it's that. Down the end of this road, there's a water fountain. Why? I don't really know. So you hop between shadows to get there, and then you hold down objective button, and it's like, okay, well, now you're going over, turn this corner and go down there to that direction. And there's not really a thing to, like, motivate the why of this journey. There's no, here is the end goal that you can be emotionally connected to.
And it's not good enough to be like, well, we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, and, like, again, I think if that movement felt a little more fluid, then maybe just the moment to moment would be enough. But then add on top of that, you don't have free control of the camera. You can only alternate between, I think, 4 fixed camera directions. You turn in, like, 90-degree increments. And it's kind of hard to get a good view of some of the level geometry. Like, some of the levels, it really doesn't feel like any of the 4 angles is a good angle to see properly what you're doing. And it's all kind of come together to go, I like the concept of this game, but it's just not clicking for me.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. Maybe the finished game will be different, but right now, What about you? You been playing anything this week?
Yeah, I played some board games.
Yeah.
Played some board games. Played a few rounds of the Dorfromantik board game today. It's a lovely little solo game. You can play it up to 6 players, but it is basically everyone working towards the same goal.
Yeah.
It's like going, I'm gonna hot seat the video game Dorfromantik.
Yeah, the multiplayer is, do you want to all play a single player game together?
Yeah, and I guess you can like talk about it and plot it and stuff, but
Yeah.
I don't know necessarily how much that is gonna work for everyone.
It's not like something like Final Girl, where when you play that single player game as a cooperative experience, it is about getting crunchy with the stats, whereas, like, half the thing of Dorfromantik is just kind of feeling it out.
Yes.
In a way that, like, I don't think sitting and discussing moves is necessarily conducive to.
I mean, you could probably sort of plot some things. You could maybe have slightly different ideas. It'd certainly probably help to have an extra pair of eyes to go, don't forget, there's this mission that's on the go. It does. It's very similar to the video game of Dorfromantik. It has that very same vibe of, okay, I need to just try and put as many things matching as possible, but very often you don't necessarily want to go as hardcore, like, edge matching as you would in the video game, because you're not scoring for most of those things matching. You're only scoring for the tasks that you're doing and having the longest river and the longest railway. While it is a little bit lacking in obvious things like watching the trains go up and down the tracks, or watching little boats go up and down the rivers, or watching the deer wander around in the forests, it still captures a lot of that, like, really lovely, just building an adorable map of this village or this little landscape. It's got a whole system of unlocking various boxes, which will have like extra goals, extra things that will make the game like more high scoring, because the whole thing is played as a campaign. So you're unlocking bits. Like at the start of the game, your top score probably isn't going to be very high, but the more you unlock, the more you're going to be able to go, okay, I have more ways of scoring points now. I'm going to, I'm going to be able to score more points by virtue of the fact that I have more tiles available, more point scoring options available to me. And it's really fascinating. The manual's really simple and clear, really easy to read through. There's a couple of things you do have to be kind of like thinking about that's a bit different from the video game. Because very often you would just be able to put down the things that will say like, hey, put 400 trees down.
Yeah.
You could put that next to something that already was like, put down 300 trees.
Yeah.
And then slowly expand those together. With this, there is a whole rule of you can't put something down if the things that are already there are more than it requires. So if you already had like 8 fields in together in one place, you couldn't put another field down next to them that was a goal that was only wanted 4.
Yeah.
Because it would automatically fail it, basically.
Yes.
You can't put anything down where basically all of the targets have to be of that style of when you score it, there must be no higher than this many things. So like 5 separate tiles with fields on, or 5 separate tiles with houses on.
Yeah.
And it is count per tile as well, rather than in the video game it might be per tree or per house.
Okay, yeah.
So there's that. But yeah, I've been enjoying it. I've played like 6 games today. It's fun, very, very, very good for capturing the imagination, and I'm curious to play through more and find out where it goes. We also played through a game together.
We did.
We finally played Scotland Yard.
We did.
Yeah.
A game that I played several times in my youth, and we've owned for a while, but just not really gotten around to, because it's not really a 2-person game.
Yeah, you got it for me as a UDP gift like 2 or 3 years ago.
It is a game that is intended to be played with groups, but you can play it with 2 players, ... One player is playing 4 players.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. But I think that's quite interesting to strategize on your own, to work out how to move 4 things, 2 of which have entirely free actions, and the other 2 have, like, a limited pool of resources for how they can move around the board.
Yeah. So, for anyone who's not played it, it is a hidden movement game where you have a top-down sort of abstracted view of London, and you've got all these numbered stations that are connected to each other by different modes of transport, be it taxi, bus, or underground, that go increasing distances each time.
Yeah, so a taxi goes 1 spot. A bus, there's less spots, but they'll usually go between, like...
And maybe 3 or 4
1 or 2
spots.
spots.
You might be lucky and have a couple more than 2, but yeah.
And then the underground sometimes goes up to 6 or 7, but there's very few of them, and some of them have very dead ends.
Yeah, and the gist of this is that one player is playing as Mr. X, the moiderer that's trying to evade capture for a certain number of turns. I think it's 20-something turns. And basically, all of their moves are made in secret. They write down which numbered space they've moved to and show which mode of transport they used to move, but not where they moved to. And then every 8 or so turns, they have to reveal their current location. They've not got limits on what modes of transport they can take, but they have limited numbers of, like, take a double move action, or obscure what mode of transport was taken, and they have access to modes of transport that other players don't, such as the taking a ferry across the water, versus the other player or players who are trying to capture them by using their limited number of transport tokens and trying to strategize, like, okay, we saw them on turn 8 on this numbered spot. Since then, they've taken a taxi, bus, and an underground. I think they've gone here, here, and here. Can I land on that spot and hope they're there? Etc. And trying to land on a space of an invisible player.
Yeah, it's a fun bit of strategy building. There are obviously a few wrinkles. The things that you can use for ferry passes, you can also use to just hide your action.
Yeah.
The killer also has access to a couple of 2 times actions, so they can potentially do the same action or 2 actions on their turn and get a little bit further away, which is perfect for immediately after a revealed turn.
Yep.
But yes, it's a tricky one, especially playing as the killer, because it only takes one wrong move, a slight moment of lapse judgment to be like, oh fuck, I've worked myself into a corner I hadn't noticed.
You consistently have to make the trade-off of, can I get away with sneaking outside of the closing in barrier? I'm being closed in on. Is this the moment to potentially risk getting caught and to hope that they won't work out what I'm doing, and to get outside of the net so I can just fucking leg it for a minute safely? Yeah. And if you mistime that sort of crossing the boundary, it can go wrong for you very quickly.
Oh, yes.
It is certainly balanced so that the hidden player, despite having the most information control, is still at a disadvantage. And that the players who lack information have a fighting chance regardless to win.
Yeah.
Which it's an interesting way to do it. I think it makes sense.
Yeah, it was. I'm glad we finally got to get it to the table.
Yeah.
What about you? Have you played anything else?
The main other thing that I played is I've been playing Elden Ring, because I don't know
DLC.
I don't know if you know. I heard
that really easy DLC that's coming.
Oh, we'll get to that in a minute. But yes, Elden Ring's had a DLC called Shadow of the Erdtree come out, and I've been putting off checking my Elden Ring save because I finished Elden Ring like 2 years ago. Whenever I finished Elden Ring, and I did a thing I never really do with Souls games, which is I started a new game plus, where you carry all your equipment forward and the game gets harder, and I was like, yeah, I enjoyed that so much, I will do a new game plus. and then I got a couple of hours in and then completely stopped doing it because, I forgot the reason I don't do New Game Plus in games, which is I have too many other things I need to be keeping on top of for work. I don't have time to play the same video game again for funsies. But to play the new DLC, you have to be a certain distance into a playthrough to access the DLC, which I certainly was not in New Game Plus. So, I, on stream the other night, was like, okay, chat, I am, like, early enough in this New Game Plus playthrough, I haven't even beaten the first proper boss. What is the minimum number of things I need to do to reach the DLC? And chat was very good at directing me to, in theory, there was only really 2 bosses I needed to beat. And they're not bosses I should have beaten that amount of time into New Game Plus. But I did so, including a boss I'd never found in the base game, apparently. And I beat them on the 3rd attempt. I was like, oh, look at me, I'm underleveled, I beat the boss.
That's why you love playing it.
Yeah, so I haven't started the DLC yet, but I've gotten to the point where the DLC is accessible, and I am enjoying having a bit of a laugh about the situation around the DLC, which is people who are usually very, get good scrub, why would you want difficulty options, why would you want accessibility, blah blah blah, have started playing the DLC for this, and gotten very upset that it's too hard for them. Because...
Are these the same people that spent years complaining that Elden Ring was the easiest Soulsborne game?
Oh, 100%. And I feel like this DLC's difficulty is a direct response to, oh, you don't like that it's too easy for you, fuck you, it's hard. There you go, you happy now. You keep saying you want more difficulty. And all these people are whining, no, this is too hard. I'm like, well, if only there'd been a community of people advocating for, like, what is difficult for but overcomable for one person might not be for another. Ooh hoo hoo. But the thing that amuses me about this more than anything is, honestly, I think the biggest problem for those people is that they've never had to just be a coward and Google how do I make a From Software game easy. And I think they're just stubbornly refusing to do so because they're like, oh no, if you look at walkthroughs, it's cheating. I've read up a bit on the DLC because I was just curious, and I'm not great at these games, and I sometimes Google how do I make a game easy. And the thing with this is it scales with your level. So players who have over-leveled themselves will no longer be overpowered for the DLC to account for
right.
It's hard to tell what level a person's going to be when they enter the DLC, and I think that's probably a pretty sensible way to do it.
That makes sense.
But the thing is, there's a new currency in the DLC, a new item that levels you up specific to the DLC.
Right.
And my understanding is, if you want to make that DLC easier, just look up a fucking map that shows you the locations of all of those items, and run around not fighting things, picking those items up, and become strong, and then make the DLC easier. But these people are like, oh no, I got a review bomb it on Steam, this is too hard. I'm like, well, fucking would be great if you'd thought about, what if From Soft was too hard, when it didn't impact you personally, wouldn't it? So I'm basically at the point of the DLC now, and I'm looking forward to it. I will get to it eventually. It'll be fun, probably, maybe, who knows, maybe it'll be suffering.
Is it all about suffering? I thought the whole point was suffering.
I mean, generally the series is suffering, maybe we can create a new world, oops, no we can't, more suffering.
May I offer you instead some suffering?
Indeed, unless you're playing Bloodborne, in which case the entire point is periods, the menstrual cycles, childbirth, umbilical cords. The miracle of childbirth, isn't it terrifying? That's Bloodborne. The rest of them are just suffering.
I mean, I know some people who would say that childbirth is
there's
the ultimate suffering.
There's an amount of suffering in there, don't get me wrong, but also, the Bloodborne is just what if menstrual cycle, but metaphor. Ooh.
I think Bloodborne's the only one I've sunk any serious time into, and I couldn't even find the first boss, so... And then I gave up.
I don't blame you. Those games are a lot. What about you? You played anything else this week?
I played Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core Reunion.
Ooh.
Which, as far as I am understanding, is a remake of Crisis Core for the PSP?
I believe so.
PS Vita?
PSP, I think.
Yeah. It's Crisis Core. I'm not entirely sure what's going on yet. Zach is zacking. I've got a whole fruit machine system where people's faces come by, and occasionally some of them are just silhouettes, and I go, I recognise the silhouette, but I don't have that character yet. And I recognise, like, the Turks, and it feels weird to actually be a soldier working for Shinra in a Final Fantasy VII
right.
game. And you can tell it was designed for a handheld system, because boy, it loves being like short and sweet. Do this, cool. Have you done that? Cool. Have a pat on the head. Your conflict is resolved with a big sword, not as big as clouds, but a big sword. And I suspect I have seen a Buster Sword, and I suspect at some point I'm going to end up with that Buster Sword. Can't, no guarantees, I guess.
I mean, that's
but in my mind,
fairly...
it's just like, I bet I'm going to end up with that.
That's a reasonably safe thing to assume, I think.
I'm not entirely fully sure I understand where this is happening in the timeline as yet. And every time I go to a safe point and do missions, there seems to be more of them. And I've ended up doing like chunks and chunks and chunks of missions, and then go, okay, all of these are now finally too hard for me. I guess I'll go and progress the main plot. And then the main plot is kind of a piece of piss, and I go back and do more missions. I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing in what order. But I was told, always check your email. Keep checking your email. You're told like 8 times. Make sure you check your email. Keep an eye on your email. Have you checked your email? Check your email. I've emailed you. There will be a test on the email. So yeah, it's a lot to juggle. It's a lot to hold in your head, and it doesn't have any kind of log for the conversations you've had. So if you look up while you have the sound off and miss the subtitles, you're just not going to know what is really happening. I know they just bombed the village, and it seems like everyone is abandoning Shinra. Which, I mean, good, but also, maybe there's clones, and there's, basically Red Sephiroth, before Sephi went full Sephi. Who can say? I don't know what's happening. Stuff is happening. And bombing villages. So, Shinra.
Yeah.
Shinning rarely. What about you? Have you played anything else?
That's about it for me, I think.
Well then.
Time for this.
How am I supposed to have a fancy party when I don't have my misbegotten children here to show off to the neighbours?
Goodness gracious,
They never want to come over anymore.
They never visit. I don't understand why.
I don't understand, and when they do show up, they can't even dress properly. They don't dress like adults. Oh, I can't handle the labels. Oh, I don't like the shirt collars. Oh, I don't want to wear 14 petticoats just to go to a party. The hair is never appropriate for nice restaurants. You can't take them anywhere. You certainly can't show them all vibrant colours or
no, you really know
shave it all off.
You know the deal. No shoes, no shirt, no hair dye, no service.
Exactly. Well, certainly all the places that I'd like to go to. And they don't even have a proper job. I mean, what is a video editor exactly?
I've seen videos. I've never had to edit them before.
Indeed.
They just sort of play from start to finish,
that.
Right? They just sort of play from start to finish.
Exactly. I used to watch videotapes all the time. I didn't need anyone to cut them up and do things to them. That's ridiculous. And of course, they're always terrible at Scrabble. And that 1994 edition of Trivial Pursuit insist on playing still.
They keep trying to play words in Scrabble that I've never heard. I don't believe that dab is a thing.
Exactly.
What is lit?
What is lit?
What is
Apart from a candle.
What is a skibbity? I can't be doing with these skibbities.
Foul. Foul, I say. It's inappropriate, I think. And of course, they're such fussy eaters.
Yes.
I can't eat that. It's got beef gelatin in that. I can't drink that. It's filtered through fish insides. Oh, woe is me. I've got a nut allergy. This is so ridiculous. You know, it's not much to ask, and yet they go on and on and on about how we're the ones being unreasonable. But I think I'm perfectly reasonable. I've never changed in all my years.
If they would just be normal, then we could be reasonable.
Exactly. And trying to say that they got diagnosed with something, and somehow they're now saying that I've got it as well.
Who diagnosed
It's
what?
overdiagnosed. That's what's happening these days.
Is your blood pressure on the rise due to having seen someone who doesn't look like you in the trailer for a video game?
Yeah.
Are you utterly unaware of whether or not that makes you the bad guy?
Yeah.
Knob Alert is for you! Every time you have a shitty opinion, Knob Alarm will shout, "Alert! Alert! This person is being an utter knob. Ignore everything they say, they're just a terrible excuse for a human being. Knob Alert! Because you need to be told unequivocally that you're being a total knob.
It's not me, though.
You're a knob! Alert! Alert! This person's being a knob! Knob Alert.
So, what have you put in your eyes?
We have watched the first 4 episodes of The Acolyte.
The Acolyte.
The new Star Wars series that's happening.
Indeed.
Don't give Disney money, but
give Disney
like
money.
we've seen the first 4 episodes of The Acolyte.
Yeah.
What are you thinking of it so far?
It's alright.
Yeah. It's no Andor yet, but
It's
you
no
know,
Andor yet.
it's no
It's,
Andor. It's hard to be Andor. Andor was perfect.
Whereas Andor was great for its distinct lack of Jedi and laser swords. This is rammed to the brim with Jedi and laser swords.
I mean, it's been enjoyable Jedi and laser swords.
Yeah, it's had much queerer, diverse casting than a lot of Star Wars previously.
It was very surreal seeing Jason Mendoza from The Good Place not be Jason from The Good Place.
It was very... there was a moment in the first episode we were like, is that Carrie-Anne Moss? I'm pretty sure that's Carrie-Anne Moss.
Yeah.
And it was in fact Carrie-Anne Moss.
It was in fact Carrie-Anne Moss. Look, I'll say it feels like 4 episodes in, an amount of plot that doesn't feel like it would have taken 4 episodes has happened.
That is true.
I think that's fair to say. But, positives, I think the fight scenes have been really good in it.
Yeah.
I think they've done a really nice job of practical feeling fights with not too many cuts. That are clearly using some like wire work and things to do some interesting practical shots. There's a few shots in particular that have stuck in my mind. There's one where some daggers are thrown at like an invisible force barrier, and like there's practical and digital ways it could have been done, and either of them would have been impressive to have been pulled off because it just sold very well the effect.
Yeah.
I like that there's been more like fist to fist melee combat in the setting. Like the combat's been real good.
Yeah. True.
And there's very little that I've seen that's like that was bad. It's just not up to the bar that Andor set. It's no Andor.
It's no Andor.
It's no Andor.
Of all the things it isn't Andor.
I heard some people comparing it to Andor. It's no Andor.
It's not.
I would not compare it to Andor.
It's interesting, and we've not seen a Skywalker yet. So
We've not seen a Skywalker yet. I am interested in some of the world building stuff they've done. But I'll say this: I think there is potential, and it could. And this show could still end really good. This first season, even if it's been a little slow to start, in that. I think it is interesting seeing a show that is trying to lay out some critiques of the Jedi and their methods, and sort of presenting them a little bit as a bit of a colonialist force. Yeah, we are enlightened and you are not, and the best thing for your children is to let us educate them rather than them being educated in your savage, bad ways. There is some very clear parallels, and I think it's nice to see a story that is taking some pretty clear jabs at the Jedi created some of their own enemies, and, like, they are certainly not blameless. There is a reason they have as many enemies across the universe as they do.
Bastards.
Little bit. It really did have some stealing children off of Native American reservations vibes in places.
Yeah.
It had some religious preachers coming and deciding how you should be raising your kids vibes, missionary vibes. And that stuff has been interesting.
Yeah.
We also watched the season finale of Doctor Who.
The Homestead, yes.
The Doctor Homestead of Shootigatwa's first season has come to a conclusion. How are you feeling about that first season?
I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell that they have that Disney money, visually speaking.
They do.
I am glad it is still going. I think Nchuti's a brilliant, beautiful, wonderful Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I, as someone who struggles with emotional regulation, still think there is a lot more crying than I would have expected in this. And I think part of that, like, I get that, like, there's a lot going on. Horrific things constantly, and the correct response is to have an emotional response to that, and maybe even cry a bit. But also, I feel like for someone who was sold as the Doctor who's just been all through therapy and is way more sorted and together,
I feel a little differently. I can certainly see that perspective. My read on this season has been, we have a Doctor who is willing to willing to cry when a thing happens that is upsetting.
Oh, yeah.
And that is not a trait the Doctor is historically shown. And I think there is something to be said for, essentially, the Doctor goes through therapy and comes out the other side a man who is not afraid to cry when that is the appropriate emotional response to a situation.
Agreed. I am way happy to see more emotion in that response, because we are very often talking about, like, universe-ending things, terrifying things, and I think a lot of the time that is appropriate.
Yeah.
But I still feel like maybe every episode was slightly more than required.
I personally disagree, but that's just a difference of perspective there. I can certainly see where you're coming from. I think any of that like I might have seen for me was outweighed by, it's really nice to see a fun, competent, camp male protagonist who is displaying healthy emotions.
Agreed. Yeah.
And that's just nice to see represented.
Yeah.
To see anger and insular shutdown not be the only way that, like, a male lead is presented as having emotions. And, you know, for me, that won out.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about some of the resolutions in the series finale, but the season as a whole was strong enough, and the journey and the ride was good enough that I'm like, I'm willing to let a couple of, like, okay, that feels like a bit of a cheap answer. I'm willing to let a couple of those slide.
Yeah, and I think we had talked about it before watching the finale, the whole concept of Russell T Davies isn't afraid to go, here is the series arc, but I am also setting up wider, further arcs, especially since, like, apparently Disney wants this whole Whoniverse thing going for, like, basically the Doctor Who cinematic universe.
Yes.
So, plenty of opportunities for lots of other things, and it's certainly got the fans talking.
Yeah.
Like, people who have been, like, watching, listening for years, or have at least gone back and watched all the old stuff, or as much old stuff as is available.
It's gotten people caring about Doctor Who on a week-to-week basis in a way I don't think they have in a few years.
Yeah, I don't think there was a lot of, or I certainly didn't hear a lot of it, like, fan theorising and red stringing.
Yeah.
Like, was almost getting to, like, Magnus Archives level of red string.
Yeah, and I think that this season has, like, I think it's okay at this point to acknowledge the whole thing with the actress named Susan Twist, and there's always a twist at the end, the musical number, and the way that panned out as a season-long arc that required you to notice something not in the canon events of the show, but in its credits, to tie things together and see them coming. I think that was they landed that very well. I think the sort of pseudo-misdirection around the anagrams in the penultimate episode was a bit of genius misdirection. Yeah. I think that the recurring character did a really good job of being sort of played out. I think there is a lot to really love this season, and Agreed, yeah. I will forgive maybe a bit of a cheaty hand wave of some of the answers in that finale, because it wasn't it's not like it was an inconsistently written season. The season on the whole felt very strong.
Yes, and especially after the Chibnall era, it really felt like a good return to form.
Yeah. It's been nice. I'm glad to see Doctor Who feeling a bit healthier.
Yes, and I hope Ncuti sticks around for a good long time, because I think he's a fantastic Doctor.
Agreed. What about you? You watched anything else this week?
No, that's it for me. What about you?
Not a lot else. The main... Actually, we did watch one thing together over dinner today, and this is just us continuing to shill Dropout as a good streaming service. We watched the first episode of the new season of Make Some Noise.
Season 3 of Make Some Noise, but the Noise Boys are back.
So we've talked about Make Some Noise before. It is a improv game show where most of the prompts involve doing impressions or sound effects or various sound-based improv and acting answer prompts. And It is a consistently very amusing show. It's got a very similar vibe to Game Changers. It started as a Game Changer episode that they're like, we like this format, we're just going to repeat this format. And they've done a very good job of finding creative ways to keep playing around in that space while still feeling fundamentally within format.
Yes, and the three of them that were in that Game Changer, and kind of the reason the whole thing happened... Brennan Lee Munnigan, Zakayama, and Josh, can't remember his name.
Ruben.
But basically have been sort of dubbed by the fans of the Noise Boys.
They I believe, have been the contestants on the first episode of each season that's happened, and with good reason. They're very talented, noisy improv boys.
Oh, yes.
This is just our continual reminder that Dropout is, like, one of the few streaming services we spend money on and that feels like a worthwhile use of money.
True.
That's everything I've watched this week.
Well then.
Time for this.
Hey, Laura.
Yes?
We've got a new sponsor.
Who's our new sponsor?
Well, do you sometimes find that the summer is too summery? Too hot?
I do sometimes find the summer a little too summer.
Do you find the winter too chilly cold?
Sometimes that is also true, yes.
Well, boy, do we have the product for you. This is the temperature equalizer.
Ooh.
It's like a compressor for the weather.
Oh, tell me more.
Well, it's basically like special insulation that you put in your house. And during the summer, it absorbs all of the heat. Absorbs it all. And then in the winter, save yourself some heating, just pump it back out again. Pump it back out.
I see.
You've got too much cold. You've got too much cold in the winter. Suckle that in. In fact, displace the hot for the cold. Swap it over. Do a quick trade. Cold go in, hot go out. And then in the summer, too hot, suck in some of the heat, blow out some of the cold from that's saved up from winter. Perfectly equalised.
The temperature is going to be fine, I guess, all year long.
So that's temperatureequalizer.lol.net. Enter the code Q&PS 311 and you can get 10% off the first 3 years of temperature equalisation.
I love when things are predictable and just standardised.
Fine. Just sort of fine.
Just sort of okay.
Yeah. Inside the boardroom of Supremacy Software.
Hi. So, I've been working on a new money-making venture.
I love money.
Right? Money's great. So, we've got that quite realistic military simulator game.
Bang, 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 bang.
Yeah. With all the, the tanks and the planes and the warships and stuff. Yeah. And you know how we keep accidentally being the recipient of classified military documents we're not meant to be in possession of, because...
Hey, look, if the fans want accuracy, I can understand that. I love me the sound of some guns.
Exactly, but, like, you know, they keep, you know, posting them in the Discord, on the you know, the social medias, and then, like, you know, we can make the thing more realistic, but we do have to, like, you know, get in a little bit of trouble for, you know, having not done a better job of stopping them sharing classified military secrets because they want their tank to look more realistic.
Well, it's not like we can be like, hey, here is a series of filters that will filter out any classified military secrets, because we would have to have the classified military secrets to do like a DMCA check on.
We would. Well, see, look, I've got maybe the next best plan, though.
Right.
What if we set up we tell people, like, oh, if you've got suggestions of how to improve the tanks, don't post them, you know, publicly visible. Send them to this email address.
Right.
And, like, we don't say send your secret military documents to this email address, but, like, inevitably, we will receive secret military documents in that email address.
Right.
And I think that's probably monetizable. Because if we have them, and no one else knows we have them, surely someone would pay money for US military secrets. And probably a lot more money than they're paying for these fucking video games.
You know, for once, just once, maybe, I think this might be a little too far.
Really?
Just this once.
Really?
USA,
really?
USA, USA, USA.
USA. Yeah, but
USA.
Yeah, but money though.
Can we bribe the US government for us to not do that thing that you said?
I'm pretty sure if we try and blackmail the US government, that's probably big crimes.
We love big crimes.
Yeah, but
bang,
not...
Bang, shooty, shooty.
Yeah,
USA,
but not the kind of big crimes where we get in trouble and get no money.
Okay, then I think we'll just do what you said. Because there was money in that. And I can't remember if I had a problem with it. It was probably fine.
It was probably fine. There's money in it.
I love money.
Yeah. Who wants to buy secrets? Scotland? Are they interested? We'll ask them.
So, what have you put in your ears?
Well, the main one is, you know how last week I talked about I'd listened to a couple of Billy Talent tracks?
Ah, the talented Mr. Billiam.
The talented Mr. Billiam. Well, I did that because I'd seen that they were touring and there were no tickets available, but I was like, from being reminded that Billy Talent as an artist exists, and then I put my name down for like, if anyone drops out and cancels getting their ticket, I will buy a ticket. And then tickets became available, so I made an impromptu trip to go see the Billy Talent playing in London. So some of the tracks they played 20 tracks. They had a very like non-stop go 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 kind of set. Opened with Devil in a Midnight Mass, which is a very good high energy opening track. Afraid of Heights, River Below, Try Honesty, Surrender, Devil on My Shoulder, Viking Death March, Red Flag, Closed on Fallen Leaves. They put on a hell of a fucking live show. Very, very impressed with their whole setup. So visually they had some like LED screens that were sort of like changing backdrop to sort of be themed with either album covers or music video themes per song, and those were really well done. They put on a very, very high energy, no pauses, no breaks, full on kind of show. The crowd was so on board with it. It was, but within like the first track of them being on stage, already there'd been like 6 or 7 crowd surfers overhead, like less than a track in. It was a real getting jostled about, real bouncy crowd. Of people who were all very, very, very invested in being there. It was a real electric energy to be in that crowd. Also, I always really fucking appreciate a band that is willing to just stop their song dead in its tracks in the middle of a track to go, I think someone needs some help back there. Just fucking stop everything, make sure a person's okay. Cool, that person okay? Let's set the ground rules, everyone look after each other. Cool, we all good? we'll jump back into playing our set. I'm like, that's good. That's appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Another thing they did that I really appreciate, they didn't do an encore, but they made it very clear they weren't going to do an encore in a way where I'm like, cool, you ended your set on good momentum with your big closing track, and didn't have that weird awkwardness of people waiting going, do we wait around in case there's more tracks? The way they signaled that, I wish more bands would do this, is cool, we played our set, we're done. Watch us lift up the set lists off of the amps, off of the floor, and take them with us off stage, so you know the set list is gone, there are no more songs on the set list. We have done our set. And I'm like, cool. You ended on a banger, and you made it clear that's the last track. And I appreciated the clarity of the setup there. Yeah, they were supported by a band called Snakes, Snayx, who had some very good tracks, if you like, shouting angrily about the Tories, but also Labour kind of being Tory light, and about cops fucking sucking.
Cops do suck.
The cops do suck. Let me find the name of the one track I wanted to recommend. I think it's called Boys in Blue. Well done to you. The streets are not safer. Blues and twos. And what does that say about you? Protect and serve themselves, power tripping plastic pigs. Public funded with their guns on their hips, contempt for the people, house of glass, it's a farce, they're as shameful as the first and as guilty as the last. I'm like, yeah. Good to hear some good anti-cop shouty rock.
Heck yeah.
Very much enjoyed that. I was nice to be turned onto that band's existence. So yeah, I saw some live music and it was pretty good. What about you? You been listening to anything this week?
Not really. It's not been a very listened-heavy week. I've been slowly catching up with the latest season of Dice Funk. I think I'm just about through the second arc of the underwater team, the wet team. You're just getting back to town, and there seems to be some kind of a ruckus.
A ruckus?
Well, I say you're getting back to town. Reaper's got back to town. You EP sleepy. You're just a sleepy little bean.
Yeah.
And maybe something bad is happening. I don't know. Oh no, peril. But yeah, I'm enjoying the latest season of Dice Funk. As I said with season 10, it's a real return to form. So if you dropped off any time around series 8 and 9, the last two series have really picked it back up to its peak again. Some of the best storytelling, and this like two-hander split seasons has been a really nice idea of how to tell sort of coexisting stories, and then sort of do little interactions at various stages. That's been very cool. That's about it for me then.
Well then, time for this.
And now back to Invisible Bob with the weather. Hello! It's gonna be sunny, precisely when you're working. Are you working today? It's gonna be sunny, it's gonna be beautiful out there, the nicest day you've seen in a really long time. Oh, what's that? It's your day off tomorrow? Well, don't worry, I've got all the predictions right here. Cloudy and grey, possibly even showers all day, maybe thunder. Oh, but you're back to work the day after that, don't you worry, it's going to be a scorcher, absolutely burning hot, the perfect tan weather, and you're just going to see other people out there, and they're going to be having a lovely time, possibly even with a fruity beverage in a park. Back to the studio. Coming to a comic book shop near you, the League of Kind of Meh Superheroes, starring Always Has a Pen Guy, he's never not got a pen, the Descaler, their I-beams can remove limescale from sanitary ware, kettles and pipework. Grammar Friend can help you with all your grammar questions and isn't a dick about it. The week before payday gourmet. They can whip up a nutritious and delicious meal for 4 with only the last few ingredients in your kitchen, with enough left over to see you through. They face off against their moderately diabolical arch-nemesis, Pothole Pete, the ruiner of transport infrastructure. The League of Kind of Meh Superheroes, available in your local comic store. Do you know what I want to see more of?
What do you want to see more of?
Social justice warriors.
Social justice warriors?
Yeah.
Right, Harry.
Right, Barry. How you doing?
Oh, bit warm.
Oh, yeah.
Could do with, a little bit of, maybe the winter weather if I could, maybe put it away and have it back now.
Oh, if only there were a way to do
If
that.
only there was such a product we could make that available.
Yeah.
What about you, mate? You doing all right?
Doing all right. Having emotions about politics, but that's the eternal state of things. I got mixed political feelings at the moment because on the one hand, I'm trying to not deny myself the joy of this particular thought.
The absolute trouncing of the Tories.
It does seem like the Tories are. He's looking very fucking unlikely they will survive this upcoming election.
Yeah, and that's glorious. Yeah, but it does seem like we might be replacing them with an entirely different shade of Tory.
Yeah, because that's the thing. It's like, I think it's all right to have that moment of, after the Tories have been in charge for 14 fucking years, to finally see them not just knocked out of the political race, but to be, polling the worst they have done so in the party's political history.
Yeah.
It's satisfying. And it is nice to have that moment.
I just wish they weren't behind Reform UK.
Well, yeah.
As much as I'd like to see them, very far down, I also wouldn't like to see Reform UK in the same bin.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is it's like, there's many years where I'd have been like, anyone but a Tory, anything to get the Tories out, and, for many years I think that would have been a reasonably defensible position.
Well, you know what, I think anyone but the Tory is true, but the problem is, all we have is different shades of Tory.
Yeah, it's the problem that the US and the UK are having the same problem right now, which is that ostensibly the primary, quote-unquote, left-wing opposition party, at least in terms of, like, parties that have a real shot of getting elected.
Yeah, just dickheads with a pride lanyard.
Yeah, I saw someone use a fucking phrase, and it fucking sent me sideways. Right. I saw someone say, Labour. It's very important that Labour replace the Conservatives, because that way they'll say your correct pronouns when reintroducing Section 28. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's it, isn't it? You'll drape it in a fucking lanyard.
Yeah, they may not have any rights. They'll say things like that.
Yeah, they'll use the they them pronouns to strip the rights away.
Chest feeders may not use the same bathrooms as everyone else.
It's. Both the US and the UK have got this problem of the left-wing opposition doesn't really exist. It's the right-wing with like 3 or 4 bullet points to go. Those are technically left-wing points. Yeah. They're better, right? And
we're left of them.
Barely.
Yeah, we're barely left of them. We haven't set up detention camps yet.
Yeah. It's fucking exhausting. Both US and UK, we need... left-wing candidates and left-wing parties do exist, but the problem is we need to get to a point where there is a proper left-wing option that is, has the degree of groundswell that they might actually be electable in a serious way, and it's, it fucking sucks to be, what was that, there's that Bo Burnham song that keeps going around my head that feels all the more applicable now than it did when it was released, which was, how is the best scenario Joe Biden? Which gets more and more, I guess, of it as time goes on, because it's not great to be in a situation of, is the best vote to throw out the vote for not the worst party, but the second worst that's a real fucking close second? Is it, have we reached a point where it is, our vote for a more left-wing party is actually going to be a productive vote to be used, and that kind of stuff. It sucks to have to weigh that up and to not just be able to go, this party at least somewhat closer aligns to my views. Obviously, that should be where my vote goes.
Yeah, absolutely, mate.
It's tiring to not be that simple. And to have the option that might get the worst party out is the worst party with like a rainbow sticker on it.
Fancy hug, mate.
Oh yeah.
Good hug, mate. Good hug.
Good hug.
Right, I think go and get a drink out of the freezer, mate.
Oh, sounds lovely.
Nice. So, Laura,
Yes?
you do things, and those things can be found on the internet.
I do stuff, and it's on the internet.
Tell us one of the things. All of the things. Where are they?
Laura K. Buzz, everywhere. Laura K. Buzz, you'll find all the stuff. That's where the stuff is. Unified branding and all that. Laura K. Buzz. What about you? Where are you out on the internet?
I don't have unified branding, but I do have a link tree. It's linkter.ee/Janiac. JANEIAC. You can find all the things I've written, the music I've made, the t-shirts I've designed, the words I've written, all that good stuff. You can help support me at patreon.com/stonedmonkeyradio. For as little as $1 a month, you can help justify all of the sleepies. You can find me on Humans Holler at News. I am one of the co-hosts over there now. I just recorded another episode on Sunday, so that will go up soon. As soon as Lauren has finished recording, I am, or editing rather, I should say. But yeah, it's, go check out all of those things. And I think that's everything. So, Laura,
Yeah?
will you sing us out, please, darling?
Until next time, be a stranger.